but developing good character, what good is it? To get to your end point, all right? You make $1 million, you're living well, but your character is jacked up and nobody trusts you. Are you following me? So we must begin to develop character. We have to not only come together in unity today and celebrate today. Hell, we got 6 other principles that we got to carry out. Am I right or wrong? This is for the rest of the week, all right? We not only carry them out in public here at the shrine, but we have to carry them out every day of every year. Are you following me? Yes. Okay. There's an event that I'm giving January 7th with my good brother Omar Abdullah Johnson, the brother that you've seen in the DVD Hidden Colors. I invited this brother to town simply because there's a major problem here in Atlanta in dealing with the educational system. And if we understand what education is, the root word to education is educare, meaning to draw out of. Me and the brother had a conversation, and we came to the consensus that if we're truly going to educate our people, we have to first get people to recognize that everything that you will ultimately become lies within inside of you. All we need is a curriculum to draw it out of you. Are you following me? Yeah. We're already the gods and goddesses, but some of us need to be reminded of that and be reintroduced to the self. All right? And then the collective self needs to come together. Hence the term remember. Re meaning to bind back to, member meaning every aspect of the self needs to be brought back so we can remember, all right? All right, so we're doing this in the spirit of the Nsuka Sunsum. In any doorway in ancient Kemet, the inscription read what? Know thyself. All right? We truly have to know thyself, and this quest may take some people. I think Elijah Muhammad said it like this: every blade of grass doesn't grow at the same rate of speed. You may get it today, I may get it tomorrow. All right? Remember, Nsuka Sunsum, touch the spirit. All right? So let me put some things on your mind. Through the celebration of this African American holiday, I am reminded by my good sister, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, when she lays out the definition of racism and white supremacy. She reminds us that racism and white supremacy is inclusive of chemical, biological warfare, inclusive of psychological warfare. This is what drew me to write this particular book, The Psychological Covert War on Hip Hop. I put this book together with 700 illustrations simply because I felt that there was a need for us to become symbol literate. We have to become symbol literate because this is the language that our open enemy is speaking right now, locking us totally out of the equation and locking us out of the process. All right? And I often break down the title as such, psychological. All right? In ancient Kemet, we've always dealt with the psyche being the soul. So this is not only what white people teach us in reference to psychology being the study of the mind, which is absolutely wrong. Psychology is not the study of the mind, it's the study of the soul. The psychological covert war on hip-hop. As my good brother, Server, and I believe he's in the audience somewhere, where you at? Let's give this brother a round of applause from the Temple of Hip-Hop. Server often teaches us that hip-hop is higher infinite power healing our people. Hip-hop is higher infinite power healing our people. Walking in the door tonight, I've witnessed the 4 fundamental elements of hip-hop. Didn't you, Server? We've always participated in graph writing, which is the hieroglyphics. We've always participated in dance and festivals and drumming. That's all hip-hop is based on. We've demonstrated that today. But now, what happened in our quest to reconnect ourselves back to what we brought to America in our genetical code? The culture bandits crept in and niggerized hip-hop. Are you following me? And this is what I often teach. This is why we see our people, our young people, wilding out on the streets of Atlanta and throughout the world. Are you following me? Yes. Because we fail to keep in motion and in practice the 4 fundamental elements of hip-hop, which you have demonstrated without even knowing that you've demonstrated that here today, where we break these things down in the psychological covert war on hip-hop. All right, I have a few of them at the table over here. I have a few more minutes, so let me get through this. Reminding us of what Dr. Francis Cress Welsing said in dealing with racism, white supremacy, dealing with the psychological covert war on hip-hop. Now, I wanted to talk about these 7 principles that we need to marry ourselves onto. Hip-hop being part of our genetical code, and in the Bronx, back in the 70s, we unlocked it, all right? So it is with the Nguzo Saba, the 7 principles. We have to marry our spirit onto the 7 principles. Not put them up on the wall, not wear the t-shirt, not put the bumper sticker on, but we need to become it. Are you following me? So that when we invoke the principles, we become them. Are you following me? All right. So Francis Cress Welsing says, dealing with psychological warfare. Did you notice the other day on the news? Did you notice the other day on the news dealing with mastering and controlling these unconscious desires that our open enemy have a way of putting in us via the frequencies in the music, via their magazines and television shows, by the same 13 songs that they play on the radio, which corresponds with the same 13, 14 songs that the children watch on the videos. What happened the other day when they opened the mall and they were selling Michael Jordan sneakers? Don't yell out. Did you see it on the news? Well, in case you didn't see it, I wrote down some things as I watched it back on YouTube. Our young people had lined up at 4 o'clock in the morning at the mall. These are some of the things that happened just to buy a pair of Michael Jordan sneakers. They were in line at 4 a.m. to spend $200 for a pair of sneakers. I thought we were broke, man. I thought we didn't have any money. I thought we was in a recession. But you got $200 for some sneakers. Kanye West put out a pair of sneakers called the Air Yeezys, which cost $1,500. But we don't have any money, right? The police pepper sprayed our people, arrested our people. One brother got shot. A couple of people almost got trampled to death. Now this is right here in Atlanta. 4 a.m. to buy a pair of $200 sneakers, all right? For some sneakers you plan to wear sagging, pardon me, some sneakers you plan to wear along with your pants that sag. And we all know the term sagging is niggas spelled backwards, right or wrong? Or you didn't hear that? I'm sure you did, right or wrong? You see what Dr. Francis Cress Welsing said? See, this is the subconscious invitation to homosexuality. You're sagging your pants. Dr. Francis Cress Welsing said in a minute, the brother's gonna step out of the pants and pull up a dress. And then what are we gonna say as parents? Are you following me? As people that's responsible for young people. I hope y'all getting, I'm dropping this in droplets, and I hope y'all getting this. Umoja reminds me of a concept we talked about when we're building community. So when I start to think about community, I start to think about the term community. Brothers and sisters, we don't live in communities. Most of us live in neighborhoods that are part of someone else's community. Are you following me? We must begin to build communities. There's nothing wrong with us moving together in clusters in certain areas to control that particular area, right or wrong. But you see, we don't get along with one another to do that. We're the only people that refuse to put our nickels and dimes together to build institutions to educate our own children. We'd rather send them somewhere else. Are you following me? Can you imagine that concept? Can you imagine a rabbit waking up in the morning sending this little rabbit to squirrel school? No, I'm just being honest. That's unheard of, right or wrong. You pick up your little rabbit at the end of the day and it's acting like a squirrel. That's a hell of a thing, man. Give me a few more minutes, man. The question is, what and where is the moral compass? If you allowed your child out at 4 o'clock in the morning to line up at the mall to buy some sneakers, where's the moral compass? All right? We need to keep this particular thing in mind. I had a conversation with Tanetta Muhammad And she dropped on me this particular thing I want to drop on you. She says we must raise the vibrational pitch of our thinking. Raising the vibrational pitch of our thinking. Now, if we're going to raise the vibrational pitch of our thinking, and this, as the sister here said, this being the temple, right? Then we need to take advantage of some things. Like I see a couple of people eating some raw food and some vegan food, which is a beautiful thing. You know why? Because if this is truly the temple, you cannot go down to Murder King, Toxic Hell, and Drunken Donuts, Long John Killers, Kentucky Fried Chicken. Are you following me? You can't go to these, I'm serious, you can't go to these places and order number 2 or 3 and put that in the temple. You can't put dead food in a living body. Are you following me? No, come on now, talk to me. Let's just agree, right or wrong. I did a lecture recently. I'm not digressing. I did a lecture recently called The Miseducation of the Conscious Negro. We so conscious we do everything backwards and call it consciousness. All right? Amos Wilson talks about compensatory fantasy. Compensatory fantasy. We buy into the fantasy. The term fantasy, the root word of fantasy is fan. All right? It's cool that we admire some of the rappers and the singers and the entertainers. But once you buy into the fantastic stories, you become a fan. And you marry your frequency and your energy and your spirit onto that particular individual. Are you following me? So Amos Wilson talks about compensatory fantasy. He talks about the African American dream. He talks about the American dream tends to speak to the African's collective fantasy. He also talks about this fantasy seeks to compensate for the injuries done to our collective egos. And the ego has been wounded, as Minister Farrakhan teaches. A lot of us are acting from that wounded ego perspective and that point of reference. Are you following me? Yes. So everything we do to defend the self, not the collective self, the individual self. We think someone is attacking our ego, so when we lash out, we don't realize we're destroying the very same thing, or we're becoming the very same thing that we're trying to destroy. So we have to understand that. All right? I had a conversation with a sister today. She kept using the term African American. All right, so at the end, I let her say her piece, but at the end of the conversation, we had to get that madness straight before we moved on in the conversation. Are you following me? Now, if you've ever heard me tell the story about my second book that came out, which is called Analytics, I caught hell right here on the West End when a sister read one of the chapters of my book called The Obama Deception. And I wasn't being disrespectful to Barack Obama. I was just saying we need to keep him under the microscope and hold him accountable like we would do anyone else. Are you following me? See, but this buys in to not only the compensatory fantasy, this buys into the wounded ego. Because we have a black president, pardon me, we have an African American president sitting in the White House, we think we've arrived. All right? And we haven't arrived. We still have a lot of work to do. All right? Just a few more points. Umar Abdullah Johnson, he made a statement. He says, we hate who we are and love who we can't be. We hate who we are and love who we cannot be. I think what we need to do, take advantage of these next 6 principles of Kwanzaa that we need to invoke. And we need, at the end of these principles, we need to truly come to a point, entering 2012, we need to love our black African selves. Are you following me? I did a piece on YouTube. Where you gave me hell, sisters. Not the brothers, you gave me hell. And my piece on YouTube was entitled, Sisters, Where You At? How many people seen it? I ran down the gamut of all of the black men that are with white women and Asian women. And the only question I ask is, where you at, sister? And I told the sisters, we love you regardless. Whether you have short hair, long hair, bald-headed, on welfare, got a corporate America, it don't matter, we still love you. I said, we love you. If you 8 to 80, young, dumb, blind, crippling, crazy, we still love you. It don't matter. If you're wrapped up in religions or the Ifa or Yoruba, African, traditional, spiritual concepts, it don't matter. We still love you. But where are you at? Are you following me? So as we look through politics and sports and entertainment, it was hard to find a black woman with a black man. Black men that are wealthy and rich. They all have Asian and white women. See the vibe in the room? This is a reality that we have to deal with. I often speak about homosexuality and bisexuality, which I see now in the conscious community. And as y'all know, when I speak, we don't bash anyone. That's immature and childish. But when we prepare the table of accountability, we bring all y'all to the table so we can have a discussion. Am I right or wrong? Because our children's lives are at stake. Am I right? So we have to have that particular discussion. All right. Now, Nelson Mandela said, you can tell the soul of a people by how it handles its children. You can tell the soul of a people by how we handle the children. This is why I'm bringing Umar Abdullah Johnson in, because he deals with the children, not only across the country, but specifically in Philadelphia in the educational system. Minister Server, if we have to destroy hip-hop and bury it and start all over, then that's what we're going to have to do. The same with the educational system. If we have to pull our children out of the educational system and start one on our own, then that's what we're going to have to do. No longer can we accept the madness coming from the educational system. You can't turn a blind eye and stick your head in the sand and act like these people are not raping our babies in school, physically. Teachers and preachers and pastors and reverends are sleeping with young people. Clipping young people's time on the planet to develop and become mature, beautiful African men and women. Am I right or wrong? But we act like, it's not happening and we're not saying anything about it. When that happened with our good brother, what's his name? Eddie Wrong? What's his name? When that happened with our good brother, we should have been up in arms. Am I right or wrong? What happened to your spirit? To right the wrong. I promise I'm bringing this to a close. See, I'm trying to restrain myself. There's some other things I really want to say, but I'm going all the time. No, this is the shrine of the black Madonna, all right? So we gonna be cool. Listen, brothers and sisters, if we were really educated, as many degrees as we have, we'd solve our own problems. The brothers in the audience, that's part of my crew, that any wrong problem, that wouldn't even been a problem to us. It wouldn't have been no backdoor meeting and you're going to buy your way out of this one. I'm serious. It wouldn't have been no private meeting. We would have handled that like we should have handled it, right or wrong. But you see, we sit back and because it wasn't your baby, you ain't got nothing to say about it. Like I was going to charter a bus when R. Kelly was caught pissing on 12 and 13-year-olds. Me and Server and Kalanji and a few other people were about to charter a bus, take it to Chicago and go talk to R. Kelly. But y'all sit back and act like it's cool for him to be pissing on 12 and 13-year-olds. Not on my watch. I'm going to tell you straight up, not on my watch. Frantz Fanon said, out of relative obscurity, young people must discover their mission, fulfill it, or betray it. In order for them to fulfill their mission, we must pass the baton back to them. Yes, sir. Unscathed, man. I mean, without chicken juice and Jerry curl juice on it. We got to pass it back to them clean and undaunted. Are you following me? We got to give them at least a clear slate and set up a foundation so they can work from a firm foundation. Am I right or wrong? I'm turning to the last page. I know some of y'all can't wait for me to leave this mic. But there's a few things I'm going to drop on you before I do. Maulana Karenga went out of his way, dove into the collective consciousness, and pulled out for us the Nguzo Saba. If you that lazy where you can't light a damn candle and remember all those that fought, bled, and died for us to get to this point, shame on us, man, in 2011. Seriously. Seriously. The principles have to be put in place at the shrine, in the home, but more so in the heart. We have to carry these principles out. All right? So in that unguarded moment that children are watching, and you know they learn more from them watching you instead of you trying to tell them what to do. 90% of all communication is what? Visual. Non-verbal. It's visual. They see it. All right? There's a couple of things that I want to end with, because I do want to end on a positive note. If you're going nowhere, young people, any road will take you there. If you're going nowhere, hell, you can take any road there to nowhere. All right? Young people must act as though it's impossible to fail. Because it is for us as a people. We're going to be here regardless. All right? And I think one of the comedians said that we like baby kids. Robin Harris, we're going to be successful regardless. It's just that Professor Griff would like to live to see it. All right? Would you like to live to see us in a land of our own? Doing something for ourselves, connecting with our African brothers, doing trade, whether it's on this continent or someplace else? All right. Our good brother Steve Biko said, "What I am because we are, therefore I am." And Professor Griff, I truly, truly mean that, all right? I'd be nothing without black people. Because every time I put the pen to the pad, step up to the microphone, step on the stage in front of 100,000 people, you were on my mind. This is how come I could walk off of a stage of 100,000 people at some concert and come right back to the West End and see you at the grocery store, Krogering or someplace else, all right? Are you following me? Because there's no big I in little you. I am because we are, therefore I am. All right, bringing these principles into practice, all right? The greatest weapon in the hands of the oppressor is what? The minds of the oppressed. All right, we just have to stop lending our spirit and our soul to our open enemy. Now, one or two more points and then I'm going to step away from the microphone. In this particular book, I talked about the secret covenant, which is the hidden agenda of the Illuminati. The Illuminati is not some fanatical, fantastic kind of hidden kind of group that's like the boogeyman that hides under your bed in the closet. These are real people with a real agenda, and they're really carrying it out. Now you can call them what you like to call them, all right? Tonight we're just going to call them the Illuminati, because the term Illuminati is holders of the light. But we know and understand they're not really the illuminated ones. We are, right or wrong. Black people on this planet are the illuminated ones. But they stole our frequency, our vibratory frequency, and they set up something next to the vibratory frequency that we set up. And now they're imitating us. I want to remind the brother, I had put together an hour-long visual presentation so they can see what's going on with our people. They have commercials now that imitate rap artists. But if you really think about all of the commercials, got animals in it. The Aflac commercial, the Kia Soul commercial with the car, they're using hamsters. The Sobe commercial with the drink, they're using little lizards. Why every single time they go to refer back to hip-hop and black people, they always have to use animals? Black Dot says they take the lowest essence of what we have to offer in our culture and give it maximum exposure, thus keeping you locked into this psychological covert war. The war is against the soul of black folks. Are you following me? And what they're doing is they're going right past the adults. Those of y'all that will stop for a moment, meditate, pray, and do critical thinking. They're going after the children. Those low vibratory frequencies that you're hearing coming from 107.9 and some of these other radio stations are attacking the lowest chakras of our children. So you see our children wilding the hell out right here on the West End. Are you following me? Almost uncontrollable, to the point where you as an adult, you're scared to say anything to them. Did you see the YouTube clip where the sister was on the martyr about to beat up an old woman? Man, that hurt me to my soul. But we're allowing this kind of madness. I'm not talking about somebody else's children. I'm talking about yours. That's right. These brothers and sisters that we have to check come through the womb of a black woman, right or wrong. We have to set a standard that is unacceptable with who we are as a people, especially all this vibratory positive energy happening on the West End, we should not even tolerate that. You see the preacher on YouTube, that every person that he seen sagging their pants, he just took a damn paddle and swacked their behinds. Are you following me? If we have to bring it to that point, we might have to bring it to that point. But before this is over, you're going to pull up your damn pants, brother. I'm telling you straight up, man. For real. Nobody want to see your dirty underwear. Especially our elders. We don't need to see that. I mean, skid marks and all. Can you imagine that? But let me just sum it up by saying this. I lay out the agenda in the psychological covert war on hip-hop. They laid the agenda out, not because we did some deep research. One of them broke away from them and told the entire story, as they often do. Well, his name is John Todd, and they can't find his body right now, but we're not worried about that. That's their fight. Are you following me? Nonetheless, we have the information. All right, it's not only in this book, there's other books that are out there that tell the similar story about the agenda. Make a mental note, go home tonight and type in Google the secret agenda. Their entire agenda, all right, is unfolding as we speak. They said in everything that we wear, however we think, television shows that we watch, the food that we eat, even when we go to the dentist, all right? Everywhere we turn, they said they're going to set up fronts everywhere we go to curb our rise. And they're doing that, all right? We know and understand when the stuff hit the fan, Kroger's and Pathmark and Walmart and some of these, Wally World, are the first places that's going to get looted, right or wrong. In 72 hours, all the food is going to be gone. So I'm saying, starting here tonight, we need to get with those brothers and sisters that know how to can and jar food. All right? Everybody in this room should start preparing for that day and that time when it comes. I propose that everybody in this room develop this thing I call the black pack. Buy you a knapsack and fill it up with what you're going to need to last for 2 weeks. So when it hit the fan, we don't get caught off guard. Everybody needs to get everyone's phone number and check on the elderly among our people, right or wrong. Old men for counsel and young men for war. Because I'm telling you, they're bringing it, seriously. I'm saying this as I close. I've often said that revolution is not an event, it's a process. I want to be able to connect with souls like mine, like mine. Let me say that the other way around. I want to be able to connect with souls that are like mine, like mine. Are you following me? So blessed are those that struggle. Oppression is worse than a grave. It's better to live for a noble cause than to live and die a slave. Asante Sana, thank you very much for having me.